To another episode of a math dive in about 5 for 3rd grade, comparing and ordering numbers. My name's Brittany.
And I'm Kim.
Let's get started. Warmed up with a task. On the next slide, there will be a task on it that you can pause the video, complete the task with your team or a partner. And as you're working through that task, I want you to reflect on why it's important for students to compare and order numbers. Head to the next slide, pause the video, and we'll see you back in a minute. Welcome back. Thank you for solving this task with your partner or team. Let's take a look at this riddle right here. The following lists 3 clues about a number. The number is greater than 3,207, it's less than 3,351, and the number has a digit greater than 2 in the hundreds place. Why do you think that this task would be great to use with students? Do you think that it would provide a great sense of understanding what your students know about numbers? This could definitely be used also as a test-taking strategy to use our process of elimination skills with those multiple choice answers.
Brittany, I see a lot of different numbers here. How would I go about starting this problem?
I think definitely starting this problem is maybe drawing a number line to show our starting point and end point of 3,207 and 3,351, and then using the options from that multiple choice to kind of check off which one does or does not fit those riddles.
Not the first time our students have compared numbers. Now we're just doing it at a greater scale up to 10,000. Next year our students will still be comparing whole numbers, but to 1,000,000, and then taking it further beyond that to comparing decimals and even fractions in 4th and 5th grade.
It's important for students to start off in the concrete phase when comparing numbers. Students may need to use base 10 blocks or place value chips to see the comparison of each place value. Concrete models are especially valuable to notice that the greater place values can be compared before moving to lesser place values. You might notice that even though the number on the right has greater number in the ones place, that may not help you when comparing the overall number. We may need to focus on the thousands place because the left number is actually greater.
Number lines can help visually plot numbers to show comparisons in order. Number lines can show appropriate scaling. So looking here, we can see that 7,227 is less than 7,601. Then because when we're looking at the number line, 7,227 is closer to 0, whereas 7,601 is further away from 0. So it's so important that our students understand how to use a number line before we're trying to get them to compare these numbers. It's also important for them to understand it in a concrete situation before moving them on to more of an abstract model, just like this representational model of the number line.
It's also easier when it's in a visual form to be able to create those statements such as 7,227 is less than 7,601, or in reverse, 7,601 is greater than 7,227. We're connecting that representational to a more abstract sentence using those symbols. Remember back when we use those place value discs and the place value chart, we can use that same thing and that same thinking to represent it using numbers for each place value in our chart. It can show values of each digit, and then when comparing the numbers can show greater or lesser numbers by place value. You can really see in this model right here that we're connecting that number line, the place value chart, and those statements to all create that similar comparison.
Misconceptions that we see a lot throughout from the time they start comparing all the way up through 5th grade is the symbols. So really getting them to understand the greater than and less than symbol. What is a good way to help them? By using those sentence stems that we just talked about to make that connection. So 5 is greater than 3 or 2 is less than 7. All of those statements need to be said using the symbols as well.
Just like we saw earlier, students may also forget to compare the greatest comparable place value digit, and they may start in the ones place instead. If you see this, have students model each number and then match up the place values to see which place value can be used to compare the two numbers. I know a question that I always ask my students when comparing numbers is which place value helped you decide which one was greater and which one was less?
Just summarizing some of the different models and strategies that we've talked about. In our concrete phase, we can use base 10 blocks, we can use place value discs, place value charts. This is where we want to start with that comparable thinking to see where our students are and understand where their understanding of comparing whole numbers is. We can then move to the representational thinking using number lines and bringing in those number statements with the symbols. With concrete, we still want to use those number statements with the symbols, but this time we're just going to now represent it using that number line. And then more abstract thinking, bringing back in the place value charts and bringing in those numerals as well.
Remember, it's not a race to abstract, so rather we're connecting those bridges between concrete, representational, and abstract. It all depends on where your students are at. Thanks for tuning in to another math dive in about 5. Today we talked about 3rd grade compare and order numbers. See you next time. Bye.